Alethea Felton, and welcome to the Power Transformation Podcast. If you're struggling in your life with self-sabotaging and negative thoughts that leave you feeling stuck and limit you from moving forward, I can help you. As a holistic health and empowerment coach, I help people identify, challenge, and conquer those thoughts in order to make simple and practical changes to improve overall wellness. Let's remove those limitations, for the time is now to create your power transformation. Hey y'all, welcome to another episode of the Power Transformation Podcast. It is such an honor to have you as a part of this Power Transformation Podcast community. And if you have not done so already, this is what I'd love for you to do. Go ahead and subscribe on your favorite podcast platform or app. Now, you might be listening to this directly from the Buzzsprout website, or you could be on a platform such as Apple, Spotify, iHeart. This podcast is on all platforms, and I encourage you to go ahead, subscribe, give it a 5-star rating, and leave a review. Yes. You can even do it on the back end, meaning that if you are just now listening for the first time, go ahead and give it those 5 stars. And then that way you can go on and catch up with any episodes you've missed. I am so excited because the guest I have today is absolutely outstanding, and she is sure to provide some jewels of wisdom, pearls of knowledge for you. And it's all about helping your mindset. And so that's going to be fabulous. As customary, we always start with a positive affirmation on this podcast, and we end with one as well. So go ahead, share this podcast episode with at least 3 people you know, and ask them to also subscribe, rate, and leave a review. What I'm going to do is I'm going to say the affirmation aloud once, and then you repeat it. My mind is a friend to my body. Oh my goodness, y'all. I am so excited for our guest today. This is such a wonderful person, a wonderful human being. And this is Brenda Jasmin, who is a positive psychology practitioner. Brenda, I am so happy to have you on the Power Transformation Podcast. Welcome.
Thank you so much, Alethea. It's such a pleasure to be here. Thanks so much for having me on your show.
Yes, I have been looking forward to this. I met Brenda several months ago. We have a person in common who is a mutual friend, in a sense, mutual associate. And I met Brenda, and her light shines so brightly that I knew I had to have her up here. And what she has to share today is going to be absolutely amazing. But before we do that, Brenda, I always like to ask a general question to all of my guests. They don't know what I'm going to ask, but it's just to get to know you a bit more. Brenda, what is your favorite color and why?
Oh, okay. I was kind of nervous about this question. So this is a good one. Okay. My favorite color is magenta. So it's sort of like a hot pink kind of color. Like, when you get the Crayola crayon box that has like the 64 colors in it, like that's whenever I see it, it's like, that's the color I gravitate to. And so on the Crayola, it's called magenta. So yeah, and I think I love that color. Just, it's feminine, but it's bold and energetic. And so, yeah, that's one of my most favorite colors.
Everything like you. And I can see that very, very well. And you all, although this podcast is audio, what I will tell you is that Brenda has on a hot pink blazer that I absolutely love. And for anyone that knows me, you all know I love vibrant colors. I have on a bold red, but I just love how when she came on camera, because I do these via Zoom and I extract audio, is that how bright and vibrant she looks. And this is so much of her personality. And especially as a positive psychology practitioner, this is absolutely perfect. Now, Brenda, before we get into that, this is a general question, broad. You can answer it any way that you like, but who is Brenda Jasmin?
Okay, this is even harder. Okay, now they're getting harder, these questions.
Have fun with it. Take it any
who
way
am
you
I?
like. Who are you, Brenda?
Yeah, that's the $1,000,000 question, right? Who am I? Well, I have a lot of roles I play. So it's a fun, interesting question, right? Like, who are we at our essence, at our being, the soul level, and then also like, what are the roles that we play in the world, right?
Yeah.
So, I'm a mom. I have 2 kids. I have a 20-year-old daughter and an 18-year-old son. So that's one of my proudest roles, is being a mom. And I have a fur baby, Callie, a yellow lab.
Oh.
And I married my high school sweetheart. We've been married now for, we got married in 2000. So it's always easy to remember our anniversary. So we're coming up on 24 years of marriage. And I'm an entrepreneur, and a downhill skier. And, I do all sorts of things. And I think, when I think about who I am in the world, I just really, I really want to, I'm just really passionate about helping people to flourish, to step into their power and share their gifts with the world. And so that's kind of sort of what I do in the world and the work that I do in the world. So, but yeah, that's kind of like this, who am I? Why am I here? I don't fully.
I
That's
love
a big
it.
question for first thing in the morning.
Well, yeah, but you've answered it perfectly. And also, I will add to my listeners, as well as people who are newer to the podcast, because you have your own podcast that we'll talk about later also. But just so that people know geographically, Brenda is based in Canada. And so that's also pretty cool to me because I'm based here in the US and she's based in Canada. And that is because my guests, I want you all to be global and we all have something worth offering. So I think it's very important to even mention that, specifically with the downhill skiing aspect of it. I'm sure that you get snow.
Yes, we do. It's we've already had a little bit, but it didn't stick yet because it's November here. So yeah, but
and you're in Ontario, correct?
Yes, I'm just outside of Toronto. And I'm just outside of Toronto. And so I love it. So yeah, this is my first appearance. I guess we could say this is like an international appearance, right? Because it's a big deal for me with you being in the US to be on your show.
Oh, that's really exciting. I did not consider that. And we're practically neighbors in terms of Canada and the US, but trust and believe a lot of differences. and so, but we won't talk politics or anything up here. But anyway, Brenda, so I said earlier that you were a positive psychology practitioner. That's what you shared with me. That's how I know you. But what exactly is that? What is a positive psychology practitioner? And then on top of that, Brenda, what brought you to that? What is your journey that helped to get you there?
Thanks for asking. Yeah, so a positive psychology practitioner. So, and in the US, I actually can call myself that. In Canada, they're very strict about like when you use the word psychology in your name. But I was trained, it was a program from New York. So I have a BA in psychology from university. And then I also have a certificate in applied positive psychology. So what makes me a positive psychology practitioner is that I've trained in the science of well-being, the science, like so positive psychology. When I did my degree back in the day, it was really about like psychology up until until 1999. Psychology was really about what's wrong with people. Like, what are all the mental health disorders, right? What are all the things that can go wrong with us? And in 1999, Dr. Martin Seligman, he was the American Psychology Association president. He said, we've like really what we've been doing here with psychology, it's like a half-baked cake. We've just been looking at what's wrong with people, but we haven't been looking at what's right with people. So we help people get to what they call it in psychology, like help people get to neutral. So if you're depressed, we can help you get to neutral, but then it's like, okay, now this person, maybe they're no longer suffering from clinical depression, but now they're at neutral. But how do we now take it to the next level and move them north of neutral? How do we help them to flourish? How do we help them to have like really thrive in their life and have great, well-being? And so my journey with this, like when I was doing my degree in psychology, I actually was taking like abnormal psych and child psychology and social psychology, neuropsychology, all these topics. But next to my nightstand, on my bed, on my nightstand, I used to have all these self-help, pop psych, like the popular psychology books, because which was all this stuff. Like, how do you set and reach goals? How do you live your life to the fullest? How do you reach your full potential? And so that's kind of what I wanted to be studying. So in 1999, when positive psychology actually became a thing, I was like, oh, thank goodness. Like, this is the psychology I always wanted to be studying, like the science of human flourishing. And so when that became a thing, I found out about this certificate in applied positive psychology. And I thought, and I'd been teaching it for years. I was a corporate trainer, and actually I do still corporate training and facilitation and being a life coach and doing personal development. I was just so happy that now we actually had science to back up all the research that's in these popular psychology books. And a lot of stuff that's out there, Alethea, that you probably see as well, is anecdotal. Like some guy will get on the stage and say, well, this works for me, so everyone else needs to do it. And not necessarily, right? Whereas with positive psychology, there's academic research behind it. So when everything I share with people, it's based on there's science to this, and then here's how you can apply it to your day-to-day life. And we know that it works for most people most of the time, as opposed to me saying to you here, oh, well, this worked for me, so you should do it. So that's just in a nutshell what positive psychology is about.
I really like that, because although it's a term that's acceptable in the US, it's still very misunderstood. And people can often confuse it with what we coin as toxic positivity, and it has nothing to do with that. Could you explain what toxic positivity is versus what you practice?
Great question. Yes. And I'm glad you asked that, because I think that's really, really key, really important. And that's why positive psychology is even a bit of a misnomer, because it's people think, oh, like people will say to me, oh, you're just talking about, being happy all the time and being positive all the time. And that's not realistic, right? And it's actually not. It's actually not. So toxic positivity, it is a thing. And it's not what positive psychology is about. So toxic positivity is where we sweep things under the rug. So if you said to me, Brenda, like this, terrible thing happened in my life, and I just said to you, oh, Alethea, you're going to be just fine. Don't you worry about it. Just focus on the positive. Just stay positive. And then how would that make you feel, right? If I said that to you?
Yeah.
Like it would invalidate, right?
That's
everything
right.
that you're feeling and experiencing. And so that's what toxic positivity is, where it's like you just sweep under the rug your negative emotions, and you just try and focus on the positive. And so that's unhealthy positive psychology. That's actually unhealthy, because what we teach, so what people think we do is that we just say, yeah, be positive. But actually what we teach as positive psychology facilitators and coaches is that we are meant to experience the full spectrum of human emotion. And so we want to definitely amp up the positivity, because there's things you can do to amp up the positive in your life. But it's not about getting rid of the negativity or the negative. It's about working with it. So if you have negative emotions, I'm here to help you like work through those so they don't get stuck in your body or stuck in your mind. So we can move through the negative and then really try and amp up the positive, because we really do have this negativity bias where our brains do default to the negative. So it is helpful to, and it takes work to amp up the positive and prioritize positivity in our lives. But yes, it is toxic if we just say, just be positive, because that doesn't help anybody, and it's actually unhealthy.
And Brenda, when did you come to this revelation, or was there something even personal that happened in your life where you saw a need to really focus on this type of psychology?
That's a good question.
What led you to? So I guess what I'm asking is, this isn't something that people generally say, this is what I want to practice. This is what I want to help people with. Was it just already somewhat innately in you, even from childhood, adolescence, where you just had this desire within you to help people flourish and thrive? Was there some type of aha moment? Was there something you saw where you just wanted to change the status quo of what psych looked like?
Well, I think definitely I am someone that has I do have a cheerful disposition. I am a person like, and I know there's some people in the field like Dr. Martin Seligman, who's considered the father of positive psychology. Like he'll say like he was like a real grump, like really grumpy. And it was his granddaughter like saying, why, if you study, psychology, why are you so grumpy all the time? Right. So it does happen, right? Where, so I'd be lying if I said, oh, I was not this way and now I am after studying positive psychology. So definitely it's something that, that does come, that has been part of who I am. Having said that, couple things. So one is when I was 24, so it was a year after I graduated from university, my dad died very suddenly from a massive heart attack. And I was really, really close to my dad.
I'm sorry to hear that. Yes.
Yeah, thank you. Well, it's been, and we're coming up on almost 30 years now.
Wow.
So yeah, and I still miss him every day. But we were really close. And it's interesting because my dad, I used to have I've got his old books. Like he used to buy like Norman Vincent Peale, The Power of Positive Thinking.
Oh, yes.
And the Dale Carnegie books, right? And so I've got these like really old books from like the 50s and 60s that I've kept. So definitely, he had kind of introduced me to some of this stuff. But anyway, when my dad died suddenly of a heart attack, he was only 65 at the time. And I don't know, is it the same in the US where people retire at 65? Is that kind of an age?
Generally, but unfortunately, the way that society is going, a lot of people are working well beyond that. But it is typically 65.
Yeah. And that's changing here in Canada too. But at the time when he passed, a lot of people, you'd work till you got your gold watch, right? And you'd retire at 65. And so it was 2 weeks after my dad's 65th birthday when he had this massive heart attack and like died instantly with no warning. So what was interesting as I was like 20, what was I? I think I was 24. I was 24 years old. And at his, like the visitation and funeral, everyone was saying to me like, oh, what a shame. Like just when he was about to retire, like what a, so sad, just as he was about to retire. And I remember like, I couldn't understand. I was like, what are you talking about? Like, cause there was this undertone of like, I'm thinking, okay, the tragedy here is that he was here and now he's not. Right.
Right.
But no, like there was this undertone of him being 65 and I was confused. And then I realized what they were really saying in between the lines, what they were really saying was, he just like everyone else, he was probably waiting to live his life until he retired.
I see.
Right.
Yeah.
And like, oh, what a shame to die 2 weeks after your 65th birthday, right when you were going to do all the things you wanted to do, which is what a lot of people do, right? They work to 65, they work to the bone, and then when they're 65, it's like, now I'm going to enjoy my life. Now I'm going to travel. Now I'm going to do all the things I actually was putting on hold in my life. So what people didn't realize is my dad lived in 3 different countries. My dad, if he wanted to start a business or do something new, he did it. Like, he wasn't always successful at it, but if he had a dream, he went after it.
Wow.
So then I felt like I then had to start correcting people and saying, no, you don't understand. Like, my dad did live his life to the fullest.
Wow,
like, he
how beautiful.
did go after his dreams.
Yes.
And he wasn't waiting till he was 65. And oh my gosh, like, what a tragedy if he had been. If he was one of those people that was waiting to live his life till his 65th birthday and then drop dead 2 weeks after, that would have been, which is how a lot of people unfortunately live. So I felt like I had to start correcting people. So that was really instrumental in my life, because I think even though I was on this trajectory to want to help people and definitely, do good in the world and teach people, with that happening with my dad, it became really clear that there's this quote by Oliver Wendell Holmes that most people go to their grave with their song unsung.
Wow.
And I thought, that breaks my heart. And so just like how people thought that's what was happening with my dad, right? But it wasn't. I want to make sure that people are like tapping into their gifts and sharing their gifts with the world. And with positive psychology, a big part of it is finding meaning and purpose in your life. And so for me, I really feel that it's part of my purpose and mission is to help people really tap into those gifts. And positive psychology is one of the avenues. And to be fully flourishing does mean that you are shining your light, right? You are like, you aren't dying with your song in you. You're actually singing your song while you're here. You're sharing your gifts while you're here.
I love that quote. And I'm so glad that you shared that bit of your story, because that is something profound from what I hear, to lose a parent. I'm grateful that at 42, I still have both of my parents, but I know lots of relatives and friends who have lost one or both parents. And for you to say, Brenda, not trying to make light of it, but to say that was almost 30 years ago. I've never asked you your age, and I won't now, but y'all, Brenda doesn't look a day over like 45, even 50. So for her to say that, I'm sitting here now like, how old is Brenda?
But I'll tell you, I'm not shy. I'm 53.
Oh, girl, you look good. I mean that. You look good, Brenda, because I'm sitting here like, wait a minute, 30 years? Wow, you really do look great. And I've seen you several times, and every time you have consistently looked younger than you are. So you are flourishing. She flourishes in the way that you look. You look great. But in terms of experiencing that, it's very easy to have something like that. I've experienced grief, as I've shared with you as well. And that it's very easy to have our mindset slip into areas that can really take us into places that we don't want to go. And one of the things that you concentrate a lot on now that I want to kind of segue into is that of mindset and leveling up your mindset. So let's start to kind of talk about that. People are under so many pressures in life nowadays. What are you seeing or have seen in your practice that, let's just say in the past decade or even since the pandemic, how are people's mindsets shifting since, say, the pandemic?
Yeah, it's really, and mindset fits with all of this. Because if we're going to go after our dreams and goals, like, we need to have have a healthy mindset, right? So just to like put it all together there. So definitely I have felt like there has been a shift with mindset. And I don't know how you feel about this, but people seem to be, their emotions seem to be much closer to the surface.
I agree.
People seem, do you?
Yes.
They seem to get triggered much more easily. I think the pandemic was hard on a lot of us. People have lost their patience. People have lost some of their kindness. Some of the there's a lot of incivility, right? Where people are just general etiquette and things. But part of it is I do have compassion, because I think the reason people are like that is their mindset it's become very reactive. I think people their emotions are closer to the surface, and people have been having a harder time and have experienced a lot, and we're still, I think, reverberating from the being in a global pandemic. And so and not to be all negative, like there's lots of good things in the world and lots of great things that came out of the pandemic. Like what's fascinating to me is then on the flip side, there's people that say, oh, like I was just giving this talk the other day to a group of women on how to infuse joy and positivity and less stress into your holidays, with the holiday season. And some people were saying, after the pandemic, they are really conscious about what they're inviting back into their lives in terms of how they want to celebrate important holidays, right? Because remember when we couldn't really see anyone, and now we're getting really, some people are like, you know what? That was the best holiday I ever had, because, right?
Yeah.
Like they really felt the peace of the holidays. And so what's really beautiful is some people have really taken it as a moment to say, you know what, I'm being very conscious about what I'm inviting back into my life. So I think in some ways there's a lot of positive things that have come out of it that way. But on the flip side, I think just in general, going about our daily lives and just with everything going on in the world, right? And the polarity and the divisiveness, and like people just taking sides, which some of that was starting during the pandemic, right? So definitely, I think, and where that relates to mindset is that, where it's helpful to have a healthy mindset is that we can't control everything that's going on in the world. And I mean, just look at today, right? Like it's really hard to watch the news, right? So when you think about what, you look out at the world and you have all this concern, right? We care about people, we care about the world, we care about other human beings. So what can happen too is we're like, you watch the news and then you walk into your day, your Monday morning, and you're like, oh my gosh, the world's falling apart.
Yeah.
And you feel like you have no control over anything. When you start to be really intentional about your mindset, you realize, okay, no, I can't control what's going on in the world, but I can respond to what's happening around me in a way that serves me and the people around me. And I can get really conscious about having a thoughtful and considered response to what's happening around me versus that knee-jerk reaction. Like, when you go to the doctor and there's like the rubber hammer on your knee and your knee your leg pops up, whether you want it to or not, right?
Yeah.
And so that is what we think. Some people think, well, I just feel anger or I just feel my emotions. It's just like that knee-jerk reaction. But actually, if you really get intentional about your mindset, you realize that, and Viktor Frankl, who wrote the book Man's Search for Meaning, he was a Holocaust survivor.
Yes.
He said between stimulus, you have that book, between stimulus and response, we have a choice, right? Whether about how we are going to respond. And so between that trigger, the person cutting you off in traffic, the, person that was late, whatever it is that's triggering you, it's not that rubber hammer knee-jerk reaction. You actually can take a pause and you can choose in that moment, in that second, how you're going to respond by having a really intentional mindset. It's not easy. It takes work, but that can really change the quality of your life. And it doesn't mean you're not concerned about what's going on in the world. And it doesn't mean, but it allows you to say, I can't control what's going on in the world, but I can control my part in it. I cannot add to the anger or the the difficulties that are out in the world.
So Everything that you say definitely makes sense to me because I've worked and have been intentional on my mindset through therapy, through personal development, through so much. And you're right, it takes work. But what if someone's listening and they say, okay, Brenda, this all sounds great, but you just don't understand. Everything's going on in my life right now. And I'm trying my best to have a positive or a healthier outlook. In that case, Brenda, this is going to be a layered question, and I want you to answer it any way that you choose. But they're almost like three questions in one, but they're all related. Okay. What I'd like you to do is share 3 to 5 ways that a person can build a healthy mindset, or something that you're coining lately in terms of leveling up their mindset. What are 3 to 5 ways a person can level up their mindset? And what can a person do to consciously spiral upward?
Mm-hmm. Okay. You're so good with these questions. I love them. That's
Thank
so
you.
good. Okay. I could learn a lot from you as a podcaster. I'm just thinking in the background. I'm thinking, she's so good
Thank you.
With these questions. So yes. So definitely. Yeah. And I have been calling it, thanks for leveling up your mindset, or up leveling your mindset. Yes. And this whole level up and up level, it actually came from video games. It never used to really be part of our language. But with, you know how you level up in a video?
Girl, yes. I was a gamer back in the day. And I always say, if I knew video games were going to be what they are now, I would have kept on going. I was a gamer in the 80s and 90s, like nobody's business.
Were you really?
Oh, yes, girl. So funny. And I still have a Super Nintendo that still works. And when I get very stressed, I still play it. I certainly do. But anyway, go ahead.
So you know what I mean, right? It's like,
I do.
Up level up, right?
Yes, I do.
It's like I'm, and what's that song? Level up, right?
Well, yeah.
So if we want to level up our mindset and up level, which this world we're living in today requires it. I think it requires that we are very consciously up leveling our mindset. So yes, what's the practical? What are 3 to 5 ways? How can we actually do this? Right. So, so the first thing I want to say, and to the people, like if you're listening and you're saying, yeah, exactly. Like, okay, this all sounds really good, Brenda, but really like, yeah, I've got all this stuff going on in my life. You don't understand. The first thing I would say is just to have some self-compassion. So that would be the first thing, that, like talk to yourself. A friend of mine, I call her the queen of self-compassion. She says, talk to yourself like someone you love.
Oh, how beautiful. Mm-hmm. I love that.
Yeah. My friend, Vanessa Woodburn, she wrote the book Bounce Back. And so she says, yeah, can you talk to yourself like someone you love? And just like, or if your best friend was going through what you're going through right now. So if you're going through a really tough time, talk to yourself the way you talk to your best friend. Because oftentimes we don't, like, I know if I'm not conscious, I talk to myself. I've got a mean girl in my head, right? That will say things like, Brenda, when are you going to get your act together? When are you going to do this? Or why aren't you doing? She asks me a lot of questions, mean questions. And
yeah.
Right. And then it's like, wait a minute. How would my best friend say that to me? Like, she would have compassion for me. She would say, Brenda, you're going through a lot right now, and that's okay. And give yourself some grace. Give yourself some love, give yourself some compassion. And if that means you go and take a nap, now I know that's not always available to people, but really, what can you do to really check in with yourself and say, what do I need right now? What do I need and what would serve me? And sometimes what we think we need is, and sometimes it is what we need is to lie on the couch and watch a good dose of Netflix, right?
Sure do, or to have a bowl of ice cream, something.
And a bowl of ice cream. And no judgment. Sometimes, honestly, that is what we need, right?
Uh-huh.
That my sister and I used to do that. You break up with your boyfriend, it's like, okay, I'm coming over with the hot dog. Right? So first of all, I would say have self-compassion. The second thing I would say is to remind yourself that you do have a choice. And I think, gosh, if someone like Viktor Frankl, who survived a concentration camp, can say come out of that and say, he was a psychologist who survived, right? And say, between stimulus and response, we have a choice. And we get to choose to remind yourself that, you know what, I can't control what's going on around me, but I have control over how I respond. So to empower yourself with that, to say, and let me talk about some specific ways to do that. So
of course, yes.
In anytime something happens. So when someone cuts you off in traffic, like, what do most of us do?
We get very annoyed and typically don't show our best qualities.
Exactly. And that's a very polite way, like, and I teach this stuff and sometimes and sometimes it just comes out of my mouth and I'm swearing at the person. And I swears a lot, right?
Not
and
you,
like,
Brenda. No.
Where's that come from? Yeah, the positive psychology person. It's like, right? But it just comes out and you're like, I had no choice over what I just said, but we kind of do. But and let me tell you, sometimes it really depends on the day, right? Some days, like, and you're probably the same. And if you're listening, right, there's probably some days where I'll say, some days someone cuts me off and they get like, well, they can't hear me, but they would get an earful, right?
Girl,
and then there's
yes.
other days where I'm like, that person, they must be really stressed. They must really be in a hurry. Or maybe there's a pregnant woman in the car that they're rushing to the hospital, or maybe this person is going to be late for their job and it's their third time being late and they're going to get fired and they need to make money to feed their family, right? So again, it's now having compassion for others. It can be that too, right? But in that moment, I get to choose. And if I choose and I start yelling and I get upset and I get angry, then when I show up to wherever I'm going, I'm still holding all that negative energy. As opposed to, if I can take that pause and say, what else could be happening here?
Yeah.
Or even just to say, like, God bless you, whoever you are and what you're doing. And I hope your day goes better than it is right now. And I'm grateful that I'm not feeling the way that person is feeling right now, or, whatever.
And I don't mean to cut you off, but I like that comparison, because what I say sometimes to myself, I say, oh man, that person's really, really constipated and they've got to get home to go to the bathroom. That's what I'm so serious.
That one.
I say that a lot, like, oh man, they're really, really, really backed up. They got to go to the bathroom.
Can I use that in my next workshop?
You may use it, girl. You may use it, because I seriously do that to keep myself calm. I'm like, dang, they really are constipated. They've got to go to the bathroom. I've got to do that, Brenda, or I will just, it's actually a little funny crude, too. But I have to do it to keep myself laughing about it. Like, wow.
Yes.
Because it's not that serious. We're all going to get where we need to get. And the more people are aggressive drivers or rude, they put themselves more at risk for harming themselves or others. So I like that comparison.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you for sharing that. That's so good. And the beautiful thing that you did there. So one is you made a choice to see it a different way, right? And the second thing you did there is you added some humor. And that, I tell you, like, no, humor is a tool as well. So yeah. So the first thing is have self-compassion. Second is take that second and make a choice to, like, choose a different response, a response that's maybe going to serve you more. Like, oh, maybe they have to go to the bathroom. Maybe they're stressed. Maybe they're this or that, versus spiraling downward, right? So the up level, the upgraded thought response. And that's just a simple example of, someone cutting you off in traffic, but it's one I think a lot of people can relate to. So to realize you have a choice, and you might think that sometimes it feels good to just blurt out, like, oh, that jerk, or no, right? And you think that's actually making you feel better, but it's actually not, because then your blood pressure is going up and it doesn't feel good in your body, right? So if we can just take that moment, and again, like, there's going to be days where it's not going to work, and then don't beat yourself up. Go back to self-compassion, right? But I would say that whenever something happens, to try and see it another way, and use humor, or use a different, tell yourself a different story about what's going on. So you can choose your thought in that moment. Another thing I would say is that a third A third thing that you can do is, and this is, oh my goodness, I think his name is Ben Zander. He was the conductor of the Boston Philharmonic Orchestra. And if something went wrong, he used to say, "How fascinating." And like if something goes
very
wrong,
interesting.
yeah.
Interesting response.
Yes. So it's kind of a weird response, right? However, it's when something happens, and for you, everyone, you might have your own way of thinking about it. But so just to catch yourself. So if something happens, rather than go like, "I can't believe that happened. Oh my gosh, and look at this. This is terrible. And oh my gosh," and then you're spiraling downward. If you just get curious. So it's get curious. And so maybe for you, it's so some people it's like fascinating, or maybe for you, it's like even a that's interesting. Like that's interesting. Like what's going on here? And get curious. Like, or even say, like, I'm curious. Like, why is that? Why did that person cut me off? Or why did that person say that? And just get curious. Like how fascinating, because that also gives you that pause from stimulus and response, like the trigger and your response, to get curious. And so if you can, whatever word works for you, whether or even a how fascinating, or wow, interesting, like whatever that word is for you, to just, it can buy you some time. And I used to there was a guy I met once, and he was a consultant to like in the automotive industry. And he said if like something happened on the manufacturing on the line, they conditioned themselves so that even when something bad happened, or it's again seemed bad in the moment, they would just say, "That's good," and then they'd look at each other until they could figure out like how it maybe something about what just happened could be good, right? So again, we're not talking here about toxic positivity where you say that's good when something bad's actually happened, but it's more about buying yourself some time to just like get curious, like have a response that's not that knee-jerk reaction, just to kind of break it up a little bit so that you're not always defaulting to that negative. Because we do have, and if you're listening and you think, oh, Brenda and Alethea, they're just really positive women, and this is, easy for them. No, we are all human. And as human beings, our default mode, our factory setting is to default to the negative.
That's right.
And so if you're there thinking, but I always think negative, well, guess what? We all do. And so, right. And this is, you've probably heard of the negativity bias, where, so, which, our ancestors from, years and years ago, right? They, from way back when, it wasn't the ones that were saying, "Oh, look at the sunshine and rainbow and flowers that survived." It was the ones that said, like, watch out for that, saber-toothed tiger in the grass that's stalking us, right? It was the ones who could scan the horizon and look for the problems. That's our gene pool, right? That's who we have evolved from, is people that were really good at looking for problems. So our brains are wired to look for the negative to protect us. And so if you're a person that thinks, well, I just do that, I'm always negative, we all are. We all, and you have to override, just like your computer, you might have to override it. The program that's in your computer of your brain, you override it to say, wait a second. And definitely, if someone swerves in front of you in traffic, I know I keep using traffic as an example, but we do want to be able to swerve out of the way quickly, right? Like we don't want to get rid of our negativity bias or our ability to see problems. That's a really important thing for us to have. The problem is we use it for everything. We don't just use it for physical threats. We use it for we're going to the negativity bias if someone even looks at us the wrong way, right? Which isn't necessarily a physical threat.
Yeah.
So, so just having an awareness again that we do have that negativity bias. And so another thing you can do is realize that when you're going down that path is to catch yourself. And so again, even though I teach this, I often will be like, oh, this thing happened. And I look back and I think, oh my gosh, like I flew off the handle, or, that thing happened and I did have that knee-jerk response. And then to realize that it's okay, you can catch yourself. And so in that moment, let's say you get, something happens, and when I say trigger, I don't mean traumatic trigger, right? I just
I
mean you get
understand.
like you get you get
Mm-hmm.
upset. You can catch yourself and say, oh, there's that negativity bias. Oh, I'm going down that negative spiral. And then say, wait a minute, I want to up level my mindset, and catch yourself. And then you can switch your mindset in real time by saying things to yourself. So one sentence you can say is, how else can I think about this? That's a really great tool. Or what's another way of seeing this? What's a better feeling thought? Like, what thought would serve me right now? Um, so just to catch yourself, or that, how fascinating, and get curious, or even like, what assumptions am I making? And, maybe you're blaming people, and instead to say, well, what's really going on here? So just try and catch yourself, and then you can switch and get onto that more positive spiral mindset. And you can just do that by the words that you think as well.
Thank you so much. That was the best answer ever. And yeah, I don't have a follow-up to that, except I would encourage listeners to go back and write down these tips that Brenda has given us. She has given us some free jewels, and I really appreciate that because it's helped me. And I like the fact how you make it clear that this negative way of thinking is our default. And I have said that studies show approximately 85% of our thoughts are innately negative and 15% are repetitive. And so we have to work to really shift our brains to focusing on that which is positive. So it does not come easily. It does not happen overnight. And we are the only ones who know our thoughts when we aren't speaking. We know what we're thinking. So you might
Yes.
see us and say we're positive, but that's not always the case. I don't always have great thoughts about others, and I have to check myself. I don't have great thoughts sometimes about myself, and I have to check that. And so that is so important, and it takes practice, and it takes years of work. We don't have a lot of time left, but what I want to do, Brenda, is kind of close more on focusing on you and your platforms, what you're doing, events coming up, etc. You just had a big conference up in Canada that I was following on social media. I'm very proud of you with that. But what I'd like to ask you, and I'll put it in the show notes also, but people jot this down if you don't read show notes. But could you please share with our listeners how they can follow you on social media, how they can connect with you, if you're taking clients, if you take clients virtually, if you only see them in person? How can people connect with you outside of this platform?
Thank you. Yes, they can connect with me. Instagram is a great way. I'm at _Brenda Jasmin. And my last name, Jasmine, doesn't have an E on the end. So it's at _Brenda Jasmin on Instagram, or www.brendajasmin.com. Or you can email me, brenda@bjasmin.com. And yes, I do see people virtually. I do have one-on-one coaching. I just did a women's retreat here in just north of Toronto, which was amazing. And then I have my She Flourishes podcast. So I know, like, some people, they say that, it's just like a television show. We have, like, maybe the average person has maybe about 7 different podcasts that they listen to. So and I'm going to have you on my podcast too. And I think the kind of people that probably listen to your podcast would probably like the She Flourishes podcast as well. And it's a similar format where I bring people on, and we both started our podcast at the same time, and we're both coming up.
Yeah.
Did you talk on your anniversary yet?
I have not talked about my 1-year anniversary. I saw that you have been doing a lot of great things. One of the differences with us, and I'm learning a lot from you, is that I am shifting more into this more of a fuller time entrepreneurship role. I've dabbled in it for 20 years in terms of entrepreneurship part-time, but now, as you know, I'm shifting more toward it in a full-time type of a capacity. And so I'm learning and gleaning a lot from you. I've been watching a lot of your stuff too. But in terms of the podcast, I haven't done a big thing about my 1 year anniversary or anything, but I noticed that you have. Can you tell us a little bit about what you're doing to promote your 1 year anniversary?
Yes. And the reason I remember this is when we first met and realized we both had a podcast, and I was so happy because I don't know many people that have their own podcast, right? So it's so cool. And so when I checked out your podcast, it was like I was on episode 40 and you were on episode 40. I'm like, goodness, how is it like? And so I keep watching every week, like we have the same number of episodes. Right. I'm doing this Thursday is the actual exact anniversary of when I launched the She Flourishes podcast. So I'm doing a live podcast recording, like in person. So I'm setting it up like my own little Oprah show.
Oh, I love it.
And we're recording it, so it'll be live in front of people. I've got like 25 people coming to listen.
Oh,
and it's all
wonderful
milestone of the 1 year anniversary. So I'll let you know how that goes, because maybe that's something you want to do here on your podcast as well.
Oh, that's great. I might not be able to do it for the 1 year since it's coming up December 7th. Yes. It's really soon, but it's definitely something I can look forward to. I have a lot of plans for 2024. But that is really, really exciting. And I'm happy for you, Brenda. I really am. And Thursday here in the US, that's our Thanksgiving. But I will definitely be certain to, of course, check out the podcast episode when it's released and everything like that. So please, you all check out She Flourishes podcast. I subscribe to it. I'd like you all to do the same. And if any listeners are newer to this platform, subscribe to the Power Transformation podcast as well.
Yes. So, and give it a 5-star review and like rating and review.
Thank you. Yes, do that for both of ours. Thank you. So one last closing question, Brenda, before we exit out of our interview today. The question for you is something simple, and again, answer it, but you can take it any which way you want. It's November when we're doing this, very close to December. The year is coming to a close. What have you been most positively surprised by in 2023? And what are you most hopeful for in 2024?
So what have I been most surprised by in 2023? I have been positively surprised by I'll just because we're talking about the podcast. Yeah. So because it's been really like I launched in November, so it's like been a whole year. So when I think about 2023, so when I launched it, I committed to myself that I would do it every week for a year. And I'm not a person who's really consistent with anything like exercise. Like it's not really it's something I'm working on. So I was surprised by the fact that I consistently put out an episode every week. And I'm kind of, I humbly say that because for me, that is a big deal. Like, so I'm positively surprised by the fact that I said I was going to do it and I really stuck with it. So,
yes.
So that was really good. And what am I hopeful for in 2024? I'm really hopeful that, I know there's a lot of pain and hurt and suffering in the world right now. And I'm just really hopeful that people can kind of, that we can kind of find the better part of our beings and who we are, and that people will shine their light, more people will, and this mindset work, it has a ripple effect. Like we can't control what's going on in the world, but if we can each take responsibility for our own mindset and having a healthy mindset, that it starts with us, right? And then it ripples out to our family. It ripples out to our friends. It ripples out to our community, our country, the world. And so I'm hopeful that the messages that you have here on your podcast, and it's so beautiful what you share in the world and your affirmations, everything that you share.
Thank you.
I'm hopeful that these messages that you have, that I have, that they will have a ripple effect in the world.
I love that. And I love you. And I'm so grateful that you have taken time to be a part of this power transformation community. And I'm grateful that you are a light in this world and what is needed. And I continue to hope and pray the very best for you. And of course, we will keep our bond going. And this is not the ending of our collaboration and us just really serving the good of mankind, because that's what is needed. But I thank you. It's an honor to have had you on the podcast today. Thank you so much, Brenda.
Thank you, Alethea. It's an honor and such a delight to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
I am so grateful for Brenda. She is one of the most terrific people that I know, and it was such an honor having her as a guest on this podcast. And I encourage you, please, to go ahead, if you haven't done so yet, share this episode with at least 3 people that you know. Spread the word about Brenda, but also share the Power Transformation Podcast. I'd like as many people as possible to be a part of this community. It's coming up on its 1-year anniversary really soon. So stay tuned even for more of that. New episodes drop every Wednesday. And we're going to go ahead and close out with our affirmation, the one that we said in the beginning. I'll say it once, and you repeat it with belief and conviction. My mind is a friend to my body. If you enjoyed today's show, then you don't want to miss an episode. So follow the Power Transformation Podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you usually listen, and remember to rate and review. I also invite you to connect with me on social media at Alethea Felton. That's at ALETHEAFELTON. Until next time, remember to be good to yourself and to others.